On the face of it, the 2-5-1 is very simple. But when you dig into people's playing, look at their comping, study their solos, you realise there's a lot more to it than you might first realise. And in today's lesson, I want to share with you ways you can add different colour to your comping and soloing of 2-5-1s. And there are 3 steps to this lesson. Firstly, you want to hear the 2-5-1 as a journey to the 1 chord. And we're going to focus on how we get there, how we do that journey, and think about, to start with, chord 2 differently. Now, jazz musicians are very liberal with how they make that journey, because the 2 and the 5 part of this 3-part progression, they're not fixed shapes, they're not fixed colours. You can vary them quite substantially. Here's a couple of examples of different ways you could play a 2-5-1. And one way you can look at things slightly differently is to change up the 2 chord and play a 4 chord there. Now, in popular music, 4-5-1 is much more common than 2-5-1. And when you dive a little deeper into the chords themselves, it's not actually that surprising because 4 and 2 are very similar. Say we're in C major, our 2 chord would be D minor 7, D, F, A and C. And our 4 chord would be F major 7, F, A, C, E. So we've got an overlap of 3 notes, so they're very closely related. And if you know a bit more about harmony than just the key of C, you'll know that D minor and F major are relative major and minor of one another in the key of F and D minor respectively. So they're closely related, and if we made the F chord, the 4 chord, a major 6 chord rather than a major 7, we'd actually get the same notes. So D, F, A, C for D minor 7 versus F, A, C, D for F6. So they're just inversions of one another. That means instead of thinking D minor 7, G7, C major 7, 2-5-1, we could think 4-5-1, F6, G7, C major 7. The benefit of that is I think you feel the lift to G7 a bit more. It's smoother, it's better connected. There's less of the root jump because instead of going like D, G, C, we're going F, G, C. It's all closer together in terms of the bass notes. Now here's some examples of how you could play 4-5-1, and yes, we are essentially still playing D minor 7 here, but it's the next step of the lesson which will make sense why we're thinking of the 2 chord as a 4 chord. Now you can of course say we're still playing D minor 7, we're just playing inversions of that, of course we are, but maybe thinking of it as an F6 just brings out some different ways for you to think about it and takes you away from the usual ways you play it. So we've changed 2-5-1 to 4-5-1, what about the 5 chord? This is where things get quite interesting. Now one of my favourite progressions in music is 4 major to 4 minor, so if you're in the key of C, you go F, F minor, probably back to C next. Very common thing in popular music and jazz. That move from minor to major is very emotive, it's dramatic, and I find it musically very satisfying as notes closely falling into one another. So what if we use that in our 2-5-1 instead of D minor 7, G7, C major 7, and we went F6, F minor 6, C major 7, so 4, 4 minor to 1. Good to try this in chords first. So here is 4 minor 4 1, keeping the rhythm just simple, just so you can hear it. For For me, this just adds a level of intensity that isn't there when you play D minor 7, G7, C major 7. Now, why does it work though? Why does F minor 6 work in place of G7? Well, we need to dig a bit deeper into the intervals of what F minor 6 sounds like against a G. F minor 6 contains the following notes: F, A flat, C and D. Against a G, an F would be a flat 7, so that gives you a super important note to imply the feeling of a dominant chord. We've got the flat 9, so that's like an altered dominant sound. And then we've got C, which is the 11th or the 4th. And then we've got D, which is the 5th. But the essence that comes across for me when you play F minor 6 instead of G7 is you're essentially getting a rootless altered dominant. So like G7 flat 9, but without that root. But that's just part of the equation. What we're actually trying to do is go major, minor to 1. We've made our 2 chord a 4 chord. We've made our 5 chord a minor 4 chord to get an altered dominant sound. Now, that's the theory. Let's get into kind of just getting started with playing it on the fretboard. And crucially, it's that minor 4 into the 1 where you really need to think about trying to resolve notes closely. So useful things to practice F minor 6 into C major 7. Here's an example where the 6th leads up to the 3rd of C major 7. Where the flat 3 of the F minor 6 goes down to the 5th of the C chord. So there's some really close connections there. You want to make the most of those in your lines for that real nice, satisfying, smooth, close connections. And a neat little trick that I do with this 4 major to 4 minor is whatever you play on F6 or D minor 7, if you're going with D minor 7, if you just move that same phrase up a minor 3rd, it will become F minor 6 or F minor 7, whatever you're playing. And that enables for some really useful harnessing of repetition. So you can play something for D minor, so F6, and then move it up a minor 3rd and play the same kind of idea for F minor 6, which brings in that all-important thread of repetition through your soloing, which I think is a crucial ingredient for any good improvising. Here's the upper minor 3rd thing in arpeggios first. Here's that in a line. As always, understanding the theory is just one thing. It's step 1, really. And then you need to then move on to learning to hear it, to internalize it, until it becomes a natural part of your playing. So at some point for me, this was something that I learned. I picked it up a lot from transcribing initially. And it took a while for it to become a natural part of my playing, because that's just the nature of things. You understand what's going on, you practice it, you see how you can explore these types of ideas on the instrument and how you can be creative with it. And then over time, gradually, it becomes a natural part of your soloing toolkit or comping toolkit. Now, if you want some help with practicing it, I've put together on the supporters here of my Patreon page a few different ways to practice the arpeggios, and also you get the PDF from this lesson on there too. That's linked up in the description. And as I said at the start of the video, there's so much more to the 2-5-1 than first appears. It's very simple. And in my lessons on making the changes, we go with, can you play a D minor 7, a G7, a C major 7 as a base, a technical musical base for you to build from. As you get more confident with those types of things, you can just shift how you think about them a little bit. And another way to make the changes is thinking 4 minor 4 1. But we are altering the changes, which yields different musical results when you're soloing. And it is just about learning to harness different sounds, making sure you can find them on your fretboard, you can hear them. When you practice your arpeggios, you practice these kind of ideas, hum them, sing them, make sure they're just not things in the fingers. It needs to be up here and internalized, really. So that's always something I strive to do with my own practice and encourage others to do also. I'll put on the screen my Making the Changes playlist. There's 2 series now. This is part of the 3rd one. If you want to you might have gaps in your knowledge that you want to go back over and fill out your arpeggio knowledge. So that's on the screen for you now. Don't forget, jazz guitar lessons here every week with myself, Andy. Until next time, you take care.